Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's crypto analysis here on Monday, May 9th. Jumping into the crypto massacre. Bitcoin, since we've been warning about Bitcoin and this bear flag pattern, we've demonstrated how the bear flag pattern broke on NET in previous videos, and NET got demolished. And now look, the bear flag pattern broke on Bitcoin, and in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trading sessions down 21.3%. That also comes on the back of Bitcoin having to adjust as a risk on asset with yields rising. All risk on assets have had to readjust and find some new price discovery. We have been accumulating Bitcoin basically over the last couple days. With our big buys coming in today, we have been certainly busy. Right now, we have acquired 8% of our holdings in Bitcoin via our crypto portfolio. Right now, our average is sitting around 32,636. So we're slightly out of the money on Bitcoin, but I do think you have found support. I do think there's a favorable bounce that could occur. With yields now putting in a bearish engulfing candle and basically closing around the 3% level, I do think as we trend slowly downwards to sideways consolidation, probably getting to around the 2.5, 2.6% mark on yields, I think there is potentially a favorable bounce for crypto. You can see this orange line here. Crypto's into some major support levels around the 30,000 level. It just touched the 30,384 level. Honestly, there is a chance that Bitcoin could have a retrace all the way back to the top of this channel. When crypto catches a bid, and it will coincide with a lift in the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, then it stands to suggest that crypto could have a rather large bounce, one that could catch people off surprise. And I just want to draw in this trend line to show you why we hit support. So if you take this pivot high, the all-time high, to this pivot top here, this is your original breakout zone before you had this power move of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles in a row into resistance. And now look, you've hit this bang on along with these, this orange pivot low here. So I do think we get a bounce. How much is the bounce going to be? Well, I do think it's rather likely that we could see roughly a 20% move in Bitcoin again. That wouldn't even take it back to the highs of this channel, but there's a strong chance that this pattern could retrace back to this original breakdown zone. And you will have some minor resistance levels up here as well as over here, which you can see we're just out of the money. So those will be your first two resistance levels. Once you get through that, there's pretty much a strong probability of you coming into this level here, which will be a big line in the sand, the 37,000. I honestly do think there's a strong probability of you bouncing back to 37,000. If we look at Luna, we're also acquiring Luna. We are in the money on Luna. You can see Luna's into some major supports. The beautiful thing here is it did pierce this low and make a new temporary low, which stands to suggest that this could potentially bounce a little bit higher over the near term. If we look at our first trend line of resistance, you're going to have a little bit of resistance coming in here. This is basically your pivot high here. This is where you pulled back, consolidated, and then broke up even higher to make new all-time highs. So that'll be your first level of resistance. If you somehow get through that level of resistance, which I do think there's a strong probability, then I do think your next level of resistance, and one that I do think is likely again to see, is this 72 level. So that would be a pretty substantial bounce in the markets. And Luna, from the current lows, it would be a 50% bounce, which is certainly, you may seem to think that it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's highly probable that does happen again. And we have such a small average that we're just going to keep accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. You do have this downward sloping trend line that'll act as resistance. I don't think we're going to need to use it until we're out of this trade. but nonetheless, it is another trend line to keep your eye on. We're also acquiring Link Chain or Chainlink. We're slightly out of the money. Our average is around 9. Right now, we roughly have 4% of our portfolio in Chainlink. You can tell that I sent out a trade alert this afternoon around to buy 1.5% of my portfolio, around 874 for Chainlink, which did bring in our average nicely. So we're sitting around that $9 level. I do think for Chainlink that you could see a potential bounce back up to, let me just get my my thing here. Here we are. I do think it's very, very possible that you see a bounce all the way back up to this 1265 level for Chainlink. If you want to play it a little more conservatively, you do have this pivot low to trade against, which would also still be a healthy profit. You know, from our level, that would mean that that is a 26% bounce. I think due to the nature and how fast crypto has fallen over the last couple days, it's a no-brainer to start accumulating, just dipping our toe in. And again, I'm roughly only trading 3 or 4 cryptos. So if I'm trading 4 cryptos, I can put up to 25% of my whole crypto portfolio in any one of these coins, and I would be okay with doing that. So full disclosure, my crypto portfolio, I have a trading crypto portfolio, which is roughly around 35,000 Canadian dollars, and then I have an investing crypto portfolio, which is roughly sitting at around also $35,000. So my full investing crypto portfolio, full disclosure, it's with BlockFi. It is currently in 100% in cash. I am not looking to put that long-term capital to use yet. I am earning a substantial yield, I think of roughly 8.5% yield, just sitting in USDT, as well as Binance USDT and US. What's the other? There's a third coin, I just can't think of it at the moment, but it's all essentially tied to the US dollar, and it's earning yield while it sits in cash. The yield I am earning is higher than the inflation rate at this given point. Well, higher than the recorded CPI inflation rate. So I am kind of beating that in a sense, and it's safe. It's in cash. So I'm happy to leave that there. But in terms of my crypto portfolio, my swing trading, that I use via Kraken. I used to be on Binance until there's some harsh regulations in Ontario that forbidded me to use Binance as a crypto trading platform, which I just find atrocious. I can't put my money, in the most secure trading brokerage there is. That's a problem. So, but nonetheless, I'm adjusting to Kraken nicely. It is a good platform to try to adapt and switch to if you're new to the crypto space. Looking at Ethereum, let me just check to see what our Ethereum average roughly is. So our Ethereum average is roughly in and around the, sorry, I'm just getting my bearings here, 2420. So we're slightly out of the money on that again. So let me just bring it up to 2420-ish. So I'll call it there, a little bit higher. Ethereum is showing a little more, actually a lot more relative strength in comparison to all the other cryptos. So you can notice here on Ethereum, you have not taken out this pivot low yet. Now there is a potential chance that you could test that really soon, but comparing Bitcoin, you've taken out that pivot low by a substantial margin. And now the thing about Ethereum is this is confirmation candle to clearly confirm that this breakdown is now a go. So once this candle closes in 3 hours and 18 minutes, we will have closing confirmation to say that this bear flag pattern is now triggered. You've broken out of this parallel channel, and there is likely over the medium term more downside to occur. That being said, when you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of hard selling, along with a couple weeks of previous hard selling before that, you are into this oversold territory that you could potentially favor a bounce. In the event of a bounce, I think your first level is going to be back to that original breakdown zone, which is that channel. If for some reason you get through that, then you're ultimately going to be looking at this secondary channel over here, which is just slightly higher, and then your last or your other point of resistance will be this line heading up there. So I do think we will start to accumulate more Ethereum if it goes lower, more Bitcoin if it goes lower, more Chainlink, and more Luna. Those are just the 4 cryptos that we're trading. But flipping back to Bitcoin, you can see that there's, on an intraday basis, tons and tons and tons of selling pressure. Again, I do think people are overreacting to the fear of yields, to the fear of the recession word. And this has been a calculated move. We have been scoping out Bitcoin for months and months and months now, and we have been waiting for this breakdown to occur. And we finally have it. And look at the type of fear selling and panic selling that occurs. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to be Michael Saylor right now, in the sense that his Bitcoin holdings are taking a shit kicking. He is a billionaire, so I wouldn't mind being Michael Saylor in that sense, but nonetheless, it's going to be interesting to see how long MicroStrategy can keep the doors open in the event that Bitcoin keeps going lower and lower. There's some rumors that there's a CFO. I don't know if this is true or not, so if someone could make a comment on the video to let me know if it is true or not. But there's a rumor saying that their CFO said that MicroStrategy will start getting margin called around the 21,000 level if Bitcoin approaches there. And that would be a major pivotal area for Bitcoin. If MicroStrategy does have margin calls around that level, and they are the biggest corporation holding the most amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, if they got a margin call and were forced to start selling, that would be detrimental to the Bitcoin price. You have the biggest buyer having to basically meet their margin demand, and they could become the biggest seller of Bitcoin. It's kind of like that catch-22 what we're experiencing with the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has been the biggest buyer of U.S. treasuries and equities for the last few years, and now they're becoming the biggest seller. And that's kind of what we could see in Bitcoin, or with MicroStrategy. If they get margin called at that 21,000 level, they could start having to force liquidate Bitcoin off of their balance sheet, which would ultimately drive the price even lower. And then as they sell and drive the price down to meet their margin requirement, it continues to tank the price. So then they get more margin call, and then it's just this domino effect and it really displays how powerful margin can be. When you use it in your favor, and when it goes against you, it's certainly a nightmare to deal with. You never want to have margin power going against you, certainly in a bear market where assets are very probable to head much lower over time. So again, let's just stay the course. Be ready for more alerts. My next ad level on Bitcoin is around this 28,830 level. If for some reason we break through that, we will continue to add to our position. Bitcoin does not go down in a straight line. It's had a beautiful move on high volume, and I do think we are due for a short-term bounce. I do think it has to coincide with the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, which from previous videos you know we are well into support areas, and with yields now pulling back and I think putting in a short-term high, we should have that favorable bounce occur. Hopefully everybody is keeping cool heads in times of panic and sell-offs. This is where we traders thrive. This is why we have cash on the sidelines. This is why we inch in slowly to positions. You need to check your emotions at the door. It's one of the most difficult things is to buy assets when everyone else is dumping and selling. I mean, just like we were buying Net, Teladoc, Spotify, PayPal, Netflix today, we're buying into the fear because that's how you make money 9 times out of 10 when you are the one person buying as opposed to the 7, 8, 9, 10 sellers. You are going to be the one making money at the end of the day or over a couple weeks. So stay tuned for more trade alerts. We are into some choppy times. The markets are moving at a blistering pace. So forgive me for the bombardment of trade alerts, but this is just the environment that we're in. It has these sudden moves in any which direction, and we just have to be ready to capitalize on the patterns and support and resistance zones. Take care, everybody. Thank you, as always, for being